the session. I understand there is a lot of questions are there. We'll start the program. So this is the first module that we will be covering today. The module 1 will try to give a glimpse of DPDP, especially for engineers and developers like us. And module 2 will be talking about consent engineering and how it can be done on a UI and UX. And module 3 will focus on secure life cycles for retention and automated deletion. And end of the thing, module 4 will talk about security safeguards and incident management. So this is how we have structured this particular program for now. First, let me start with the classification of data. What is, you know that as far as DPDP is concerned, there is a clear distinction between digital data and non-digital data. So digital data, all of us will know that whatever that is digital data which is being stored, processed or transmitted in electronic formats. The data can be in databases, cloud storage and other digital profiles. Under the DPDP Act, all digital personal data, okay, is strictly regulated. Meaning its collection and processing is explicitly requires verifiable consent or a legitimate use. Non-digital data, anything which is physical, that is basically in a paper file or handwritten document, that is actually considered as non-digital data and out of the scope of DPDP Act. But there is a catch here. Suppose if there is a non-digital data, let us say that is been meaning that is scanned and put up in an electronic format, then it becomes a digital data. So if a scanned copy of Aadhaar or a scanned copy of what I can say, scanned copy of your PAN card or anything, that becomes a digital data, and once it goes into your database, it actually becomes a digital data. So this is the important characteristics we need to understand when we are talking about non-digital data. So as long as you are maintaining in a non-digital format, that will not come under the purview of the Act, but once it becomes digitalized in some form or the other, it comes into the DPDP Act. Next is personal data and non-personal data. You all know that DPDP is primarily concerned with personal digital data. Okay, so that is why we are looking at what is personal data and non-personal data. So here personal data is something which contains data that can uniquely identify an individual. Okay, so it can have the name of the person, contact details, his demographics, biometrics and financial records. It's something in the SQL query or user query can, if you can do a query like this, like select star from where user ID is equal to A123, and if you are able to get a particular user's data, then it becomes a personal data. While non-personal data is exempt from this DPDP Act. So it can be basically that what does it mean is it can preferably data which is stripped out of identifiable markers without revealing any personal information. It can only reveal some statistics or trends or etc. So aggregated population census data, platform-wide literacy or usage rates, etc. So something like in the SQL query language, it can look something like select count of star from users group by age. Okay, so this is more of a statistical thing which can be taken into it. So that is not a personal data which is exempt from DPDP. So when you look at a individual, meaning basically there is a term called data principle which was also introduced by your professor in there. So where he mentioned the data principle is the person who is owner of the data, except for the case of minors, okay, where they can be the guardians. Data principles can be the guardians for the minors or children. But let us take a standard case of individual where the data principle is there. So this is you can see whatever the PAN number or Aadhaar or driving license, voter ID, mobile numbers, email, all uniquely identifies the particular person. So basically it becomes the personal data. And similarly, bank number, UPI ID, whatever the PAN numbers or credit scores, these things in combination, they can uniquely identify the personal individual case. So that becomes the personal financial data. And family related data like spouse name, parents, children, emergency contacts, all when combined with other identifiers, it becomes a personally identifiable data. So then authentication data, this is like their username, their passwords, the PIN numbers or OTPs, security questions, all of these things are also personal data. Then personal related data, for example, the particular person's religion, caste, language, health, etc. When combined with one piece of information from either of the other tables, will be able to, somebody will be able to infer it, then also it becomes a personal data. Actually, Professor Inder was mentioning a slide where in the case of US, there was a correlation which was done from the completely generic data and tried to fuse from this particular thing. So this is how the sample of examples of personal data is there. So personal data, basically you have direct identifiers, indirect identifiers are also there, and pseudonymized keys are also there. Again, please note that this is not a classification which is there in your DPDP Act. We are just mentioning this as indirect identifiers because we as a developer will be looking at this particular thing. So if you look at it, the personal data is a red color one, which means this has to be protected and safeguarded very well, meaning at the rest, when the data is stored in a storage, it should be in encrypted format, and during communication it should be sent in a very secure way. Obviously, you all know that TLS 1.3 is the current standard for secure communication. That is nothing but your HTTPS. So when you type HTTPS, automatically TLS 1.3 is taken into consideration. Suppose somebody is accessing this data for some requirement or process, then there should be a role-based access control mechanism, RBAC. So that is will say that, meaning who is who for what purpose actually accessed, when it was accessed. So that record also should be maintained, that audit logs. So who has accessed it, when has accessed this personal data, so that should also be maintained. So that becomes your requirements or minimal requirements for handling the personal data. So of course there is one small code snippet also here which you can see here. There is a user ID and email ID, a location, and this thing. So this is, do you agree that this is a personal data? User ID is auth06459A9F. User ID is not personal data. Okay, then email ID. Okay, location. Location personal, but that belongs to Kabban Park. Okay, still that is that's what I will come to this particular key point. That is also a personal data. Why? Because when it is combined with something, say for example, every day 10 o'clock, what is the location, or morning 10 o'clock, that means it might be most probably his person's office, or every day morning and midnight to 1 o'clock or 2 a.m. or whatever it may be, that might be the particular person's home. So these things become identifiable. So then it becomes a personal data. And the first thing is, as far as the email is obvious, that is a personal data. Though it looks like the first one, the user ID, auth064, this thing, that is also a personal data. Why? Because it will have a mapping basically with the, meaning it can reveal, meaning obviously when it has to have a relation with the personal data. So it can reveal or it can point back to an individual. So as long as your data can point back to a specific individual or a user person, then it becomes a personal data. So in this case, yes, it can actually point out to a specific person or an individual. So therefore it becomes a personal data. So what is then non-personal data? Basically a system or machine data. What is the person's system usage, logs, and all those things. So our operational metrics or cloud whatever that is data which is being there. That is actually non-personal data. This is a safe as far as they falls outside the DPDP Act scope, and there you don't require any consent to be taken from the user no deletion is required, or free to flow. This is the kind of thing. And here you can again see, say for example, what is the kind of data that is being there. Server mode, okay, server node, where it is, which server it is being used, what is the memory usage, what is the latency, what is the error code. If this is the only kind of data that is being, then that is a safe data as far as DPDP. It is outside the purview of DPDP. Okay, so this becomes a non-personal data. Yeah. 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 It is the processor, whoever is processing that particular data, when he is accessing that particular user's personal data, that log should be maintained. What activity it was accessed, for what it was accessed, when it was accessed. Yes, yes. Not really, sir. I'll just come to, no, let us say that all the employees' logs are there. I want to know whether Mr. Anup Kumar Pandey has entered the office or not. I'm just saying for okay. So I'm trying to specifically log in and see. Okay, so then that my record should be maintained in the log, that Balaji has tried to find whether the presence of this particular person at this particular point of time. So that log should be maintained. Okay, this is not really, this officially is a different thing. Yeah, like micromanagement. Okay, it's micromanagement. So basically this is an official thing, but when it comes to personal data management, that's where the issue comes into picture. Yes, sir. Which information? No, sir. No. Actually, I just gave an example here. But let us say that, I'm not talking about logging also. Let us say that he has swiped in. Okay, he is, as soon as he enters the office, he swipes actually. So that is a record which is maintained. Now I am particularly seeing higher privileged user. I am seeing. So, correct. I have a process also. So that process, why I am seeing, that data should be logged. That I am seeing, trying to see. That has to be logged. Yeah, wrong example. Employment is not be the case. That is a wrong example as far as this thing. But let us assume a different example. Let us say that that direct benefit transfer is there. So I am trying to see whether the direct benefit transfer is for a given, let us say beyond 60 years. I am trying to get access to the particular person who the amount has been transferred, whether he is beyond 60 years or not. Okay, I am trying to get some personal data into that. And so I am trying to access that particular data. Then suppose if I am the officer, my data should be recorded in the log. That this particular thing, for this particular reason, he accessed it. What time, what date and time stamp it was accessed. That log should be maintained. Once you classify something as PII, that is personally identifiable data, then anybody accessing that PII should be logged. That's all. And that log should be immutable log. Immutable in the sense it should not be modifiable or changeable. That depends on how much the log as a general security perspective, there is a constraint, 7 years kind of thing is there. But as far as this particular thing, only your consent, how long you have taken, and meaning you can only access as long as the data is there. So that minimum, I think 2 years is there. So that is something is to be taken. Yes. Eraser, but suppose if there is a request for eraser from the individual himself, suppose the data, the owner, the concerned person says that my data should not be kept with you, please erase it or something, you should erase that. And once erased, the information of eraser can be kept with you. Yeah, that's the thing. Now coming back to the third important thing is the challenging part, the mixed data. So mixed data is basically a combination of both personal data and non-personal data. This is where the biggest challenge is. So you log in with your personal identifiers, and there can be number of meaning basically it can be, say for example, text fields, user input, all of these things can be captured. So what happens is, if there is a mixed data, meaning there is a small, let us say 1% of personal data and 99% of non-personal data, then also it will be classified as personal data. So mixed data is also will be classified as personal data only. That is a challenge. So now let us look at the small example there. Transaction ID is given, gateway latency millisecond. If you look at individually, it doesn't matter, but device model is iPhone 14. But if you look at the red statements, customer name and delivery notes, say for example, if I am ordering something to Swiggy or something, if I make a statement, delivery or a note saying that call me at my mobile number for getting to my house, then it becomes a personal data. So this one is, though looks like a mixed data, mix of both personal and but this is considered under the personal data only and comes under the DPDP, the last part. Yeah, there is that is where we need to see. First of all, a very simple position is, if there is a PI involved, then automatically any component of PI is, if it is involved, then automatically you can classify safely as a personal data only. PI, yes, yeah, that is true. That again, that for that only I am coming to the next few points, so that will tell that. So now the second, technically speaking, how we can architect our solutions around mixed data. So one of the option is which is shown in the left hand side is a vertical separation, that is the table splitting. In the relational database systems you might be aware of, where you can split a separate table, maintain the PII data on a separate table, like authentication tokens, profiles, email IDs, phone numbers, etc. in separate table, while non-personal data like metrics, events, logs, etc. this can be kept in a separate table, and this table can be taken and opened for analytics. The green color box can be given for this thing, but as far as the PII data is concerned, you should have a strict role-based authentication control and encryption, and data should be encrypted also. It cannot be stored in a plain text format. It should be encrypted, and there should be RBAC, and there should be a logging of the data, who has accessed, when has accessed. So this is for the database implementation. Yeah. 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 Correct. So idea is you can split into another database. That is also can be done, but it is mandatory for you to maintain the RBAC for the PII data. The other one, it's not required. That's the point. Then second option, not option, I would say it is a requirement. Second requirement is basically a middleware. You will have a redaction of it. So basically, redaction, what we do is you try to have a piece of code or a software which will try to strip off the personally identifying information. For a simple example, let us say that Balaji at gmail.com is there. Instead of that, you store it as *** at gmail.com. Okay. So then it is basically, it is a redaction which is actually stored. So why that happens is, meaning suppose it is better to store gmail.com also, because for analytic purposes you may have to require it. But that does not give the information that Balaji's email ID is. But so you only mask off that particular part, *** at gmail.com. That is one way of implementing the redaction part. And after redacting, it becomes the sanitized payload, which meaning goes to whatever activity for monitoring or logging or whatever it is. So that is something which can be there. So removing the personal data from mixed payloads before they are logged or stored. So this is one of the operations requirement, etc., which is there. And this is something which you can understand that personal data should be encrypted, and there is a restrictive access and usage only, and you cannot cache it freely also, and it is limited to analytics and whatever it is, so processing. So that is the only thing which is there. Exactly. So unless otherwise you have explicitly taken the consent for a thing or any for stating that it is for meant for research purposes, etc. Yeah. No, sir. Actually, there is no specific technology has been not mentioned. Even TLS 1.3 as a technology which is not mentioned in the DPDP. What that idea is, today TLS 1.3 was the default one. Obviously, today encryption AES is the default one. So AES encryption can be used. So that's the thing. So the main takeaway for this part is that if a piece of data can be linked back to a person, natural person, either by itself or when combined with other data, it falls under the scope of the DPDP Act. So anything, even meaning kind of non-personal data or whatever thing which is being, suppose let us say a tokenized data or whatever it is, that is actually can point back to the individual, then it falls under the DPDP Act. As long as if it cannot be traced back to the individual, then it is clear. So now what is the ecosystem that provides us this setup or this thing? There are three components again which was also mentioned. One is data principal, second one is data fiduciary, third one is data processor. So the data principal is the individual to whom the data belongs to. But in the case of minors or children or children, it becomes the data principal can be a guardian or a parent. They can be the data principals for their own children or guardian children. And data fiduciary is the key person, of course, as Professor Inder was mentioning, the main villain, because here that is an entity that decides the purpose and means of data processing. Okay. So especially your own organization servers and systems and processes which manage it. And they can also process the data. Data fiduciary also can do processing of the data which has been collected from the data principal. But sometimes they may also have to share some of the data to a third party. Okay, so for example, you may have to do some API calls to other third party services, etc. So they also have to process. So then they become a data processor. So data processor is third entity. Now understanding the roles of these people, data principal is nothing but the end user, okay, primarily for our sake, and he can give you some consent on his sharing of personal data, and he can revoke the consent also. That is very, very important. Revoking consent also as per the DPDP is possible for this thing. Second one is data fiduciary, who will decide the purpose of collecting this particular data, and he will also have an internal requirement of why he is collecting that data, and he is accountable to both the user and the law of the country. So data fiduciary is accountable to both the end user as well as the law of the country. Then third is basically your data processor, who is going to process this particular data. And sometimes if he is a third party, meaning outside of data fiduciary, then he has the responsibility to handle the data as per the instructions and agreement between him and the data fiduciary. So now just let me give one simple example. Let us say that you are having an application which sends an login OTP to the user. Okay, that is a requirement. So from the developer context, what we have is your system, meaning once the HTTP request comes, you may have to make calls to a third party to send the OTP. Generally, as a software developer, probably we don't have these things. Either you use some gupshup kind of APIs, or meaning from CDAC's own SMS gateways, WhatsApp gateways are there. You may have to use them. So now in that scenario, the data principal is the person who shares, end user who shares his mobile number. Okay, so he is the data principal. Data fiduciary is the application owner. Say for example, I think you might have most probably used Setu for our own application for logging into this program. So we has decided to collect the user's phone number and send the OTP. Now they are sharing this data with the data processor, because data processor has to send the OTP to you through their gateways. So data processor is probably one of these organizations which may be doing. What they do is they hold and process that phone number to route the SMS through the telecom operator. So that is the thing. And it is between the data fiduciary and the data processor, the entire agreement, how it has to be designed is basically they should, whatever, meaning the issue is, in this particular thing, as per the law is concerned, data fiduciary is fully responsible. Okay, fully responsible for any leakage or breaches or anything. Okay, data processor, it is between them. It is an agreement between the data fiduciary and data processor. So data fiduciary can have a contract between the, or agreement between the data processor, saying that if there is any breach, what will, from their side, through the data processor, if there is a breach, what legal punish, meaning legal things they should do or what they should do, that should be decided and designed between the fiduciary. As far as law is concerned, it is only the fiduciary who will be liable and who will be the main point for them. Yes, sir. We are. Yeah, definitely, sir. We will be sharing. Yeah, definitely. No, sir. Any case, it is only fiduciary. There can be multiple processors also. That my next example is that one only. But even in that case also, only it is a fiduciary who is responsible for the as far as the act is concerned. Now this is a very interesting example. Now let us say that all of us order food through either whatever number of apps are there, Swiggy, Zomato kind of apps are there, multiple things are there. Now let us say that there is a customer who is ordering. The customer is the data principal. Okay, and then he places the order through the app. Okay, now that app becomes the fiduciary. Okay, so he becomes the data fiduciary. So basically the organization or the company, and he may have to share this data with multiple partners. Your personal identifiable data he has to share with multiple partners. Say for example, for payment he has to share, for logging in he has to share with SMS gateway. And for delivery, there will be a third party delivery partner. Again, you have to share something. So these are data processors. All these three entities here, that delivery partner, payment gateway, SMS service provider, all are data processors. While the app Foodie Express we are given, so these people are basically the data fiduciary and they are responsible. Even if there is a breach which happens from the delivery partner side, or let us say payment gateway side, SMS provider, the responsibility lies fully with the data fiduciary only, as per the act is there. So how they have an internal agreement or contract, that is between the fiduciary and the processor. So processor job is to process the data as per the instructions given by the fiduciary only. That is the thing. Yeah. Okay. 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 Even then, to my understanding, I understand it is primarily the Foodie Express which is important. Why? Because from a user perspective, I am not going to the app, meaning the other front app, if I say, I am going only because it is Foodie Express. I want to place an order through the Foodie Express, not through the specific app. So my intention was that one only. So from that purpose, from my as a data principal viewpoint, Foodie Express is my this thing. Whether he outsources his job to a third-party application, that doesn't matter. So today, our example also, meaning of course it is all internally developed, but just for again example, I am trying to take it up. Well, registering the data, CDAC Bangalore is the organization through which you are connecting to it. Setu was an app, front-facing app, which was actually you were using to log into this particular, meaning register for this particular program. But that is only front-facing. You are not actually, you see, Setu by itself is not a fiduciary. Today it is being run by us only, but suppose instead of that, so tomorrow third party is accessing, it is not the thing. It is primarily the CDAC which is actually running it. So that is the point. They will become processor, data processor. Yeah, they will be a data processor.
I have a supplementary question on this.
Yes, sir.
I will like to extend this model a bit.
Yeah.
Foodie Express, let's assume this one, there is a Zomato, there is a Swiggy.
Yeah.
But I am the same person, I am using multiple applications.
Yeah, no issues.
I have my single phone number, I am giving it to Zomato as well, I am giving it to Swiggy as well. And assuming this one, these partners are also same. Somebody is Razorpay, somebody is log this one, right?
Okay.
Now, one fiduciary is DPDP compliant. He says this one, I got the number and then I maintained it. I asked them to delete it so that I am compliant. Other person is not compliant, but when the leak happens, the same number is leaking. Same number is leaking from, let's say, from the Razorpay side, right? Now, when the audit is happening, data traces are there that Razorpay got this number from Swiggy, also Razorpay got the number from Zomato also, right? Who will be responsible of not following? Who will be, get this one that this person is liable, whether Zomato or Swiggy, or both?
Okay, first point is both of them are have to be comply. There is no option for them to escape this thing.
No, let's say one person.
That is a point. Assuming that both the parties have to comply with the DPDP Act. That is number one. But assuming that somebody had leak has happened, how do you find out? So that is an investigation which has to be done. So whether the leak has happened through X or through S or Z. So that is one thing. I'll just finish this. So yes, whether if it has happened through that tracing and that particular part has to be investigation has been done. Once that is done, the person who is through them, whichever was there, that was liable. Because I understand that the number will be common. Okay, delivery partner will have maybe let us assume that for example, delivery partner is same for both S and Z. Then what will happen is if the leak might have happened from where we have to find out where through which of the entities the leak had happened. Okay, that entity should be responsible, or as that particular data fiduciary will be held responsible for that act thing. Sir, you wanted to say something, Mr. Sunil, sir.
Yeah, just to answer a little bit more on what he was trying to say. If you are sent a consent from Swiggy to the data principal saying that I'm using a number for this particular purpose, then that is a compliant way. If the other company which you're referring to has not sent a consent to the data principal, then they are liable for the 250 crore penalty, basically. So irrespective of whether it has gone from Razorpay or any other payment gateway, if there's no consent sent to the data principal, then there is basically a violation of the DPDP Act, basically.
He has given consent to both. Am I right? That.
I have a fundamental question, probably, if I can take a bit of time.
Yeah, please.
Let's say the first gate is starting from consent, right?
Yeah.
But the consent is just a tick box.
Yeah.
There is no proof that I have given consent or not. Swiggy can say this one, I also got consent.
No, I am going to cover that in detail about taking consent. Meaning session. So consent has to be given. I assume and presumed that you have given consent to both the parties.
No, but there is no proof. No, I'll clarify that. I don't want to promote the company that I'm working for, but I am the AI advisor for a company which is basically creating the software which will allow them to report that compliance, basically. Okay. So we have a software which will be given to the fiduciaries to manage the consent management and report it to the data protection board. So if you're interested, you can contact me later.
And can I?
Yeah.
So, and if two companies are there who are giving their data to the same delivery partner, there will be different transaction ID, there will be different user ID, there will be different timestamp. So both can be, you can easily bifurcate which one was for the Swiggy part and which one was for the Zomato part. And in case Zomato is deleted and Swiggy is still there, then they can be held responsible.
Yeah. So that has to be, that investigation has to be done. That is the point. So now how that investigation can be done? So that these are the framework which has been built into the DPDP institutional framework. Now first one is consent manager. So consent manager, basically consent can be taken explicitly by the data fiduciary themselves. But again, it is better to have meaning consent managers as a third party or separate entities which collect the consent and keep storage and record of whatever that consent has been given, and it is easier for you also to revoke them. Okay, when consent is not required. An analogy which was told by Anup was basically, so for example, you have a lot of banking apps, right? Meaning you may have account in multiple accounts, so you can do to go to the specific what you can say Yono app of SBI or A1 app of Canara Bank and do the actual transaction, but instead of that you can do a transaction through your PhonePe or GPay also. So basically they are a kind of the middle party where you can do easy, meaning it gives you convenience, right? So similarly, this is also consent manager is an application which can be designed and developed, which can take the consent and record the consent for the particular principals, or the individuals we can say, and it becomes easy for you to interact through them. So you give the consent through them to a data fiduciary. Okay, you don't directly give a consent to a third, meaning to the fiduciary, but you give the consent through the consent manager, and it is also easy for you to revoke them back. And this is the role of the consent manager. Yeah, sir, you can. How things can happen. So many, yeah. Yeah. So the next part is the data protection board. Yes. No, that is the obligation now. Under the DPDP Act, it is the obligation to, that's what, when I am covering the breaches, I will cover that in detail. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, there is that is also coming. Yeah, it's coming. There is a duration. Run through, yeah. So then number of queries will get answered. Yeah. So now next I will come to the data protection board, which is the independent body, which is overseeing the compliance and corrective measures. So they will take care of whether these things are being correctly implemented, and they will do it. And if you are not satisfied with the what you can say the awards or judgments given by data protection board, you can go to the appellate tribunal, which is currently with the telecom dispute settlement and appellate tribunal, TDSAT. And again, if you are not satisfied, you can further go to the Supreme Court of India. So this is as per the DPDP. And these are the 7 guiding principles on which the entire DPDP Act is been structured. One is that consent and transparency, where personal data should be processed with valid consent given by the individuals, and the individuals should also know how their data is going to be used. That purpose should be very clearly stated and mentioned. That is number 1. Second thing is purpose limitation. So use the personal data only for the specific purpose for which it has been taken. Meaning, while taking consent, you are saying that you will be using this data for such and such a purpose. That purpose should be mentioned. So I cannot say I will use I am collecting your mobile number for all purposes. That is not possible. I have to say specifically whether it is for marketing or whether it is for a specific communication that need to be done. And then there should be a data minimization, meaning only you collect the essential or minimally required data for rendering your service. That's it. You cannot collect everything. That is one thing. Then storage limitation. You will retain the personal data only as long as it is necessary for the stated purpose. You don't maintain forever. That is also not acceptable in this particular thing. And you have to implement appropriate security safeguards. Otherwise, meaning we'll just cover in more detail also what is that, and organizational measures. Accuracy, you can ensure that personal data is accurate, and where necessary you can keep updating. Meaning 5 years back I might have collected meaning I cannot retain the data for 5 years. That's another thing. Just an example I'm saying, that things might have got changed. So I might have to get updates and update it also. The last one is accountability. Data fiduciaries are the responsible and for complying with the DPDP Act, and they must be able to demonstrate their compliance also. That is an important part. Yeah. Local language. Yeah. Yes. 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 Correct. Yes. 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 Yeah. Yes. 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 So the first module, where with that background set, we will go into decoding DPDP. So first thing, data minimization. As I said, we collect only which is required for a specific purpose, and you need to tag, that is map the data fields to specific lawful purposes in schema. Meaning PI data should be separately tagged, maintained, and this thing, and least privilege should be done. Like you have to strictly implement RBAC, that is role based access control for this particular access, and systems should be designed by secure by default with no opting out required. Okay, so something, this is privacy which is done by default, and the strictly protected state must be the starting point for every system, because you should start from this thing, privacy by the default thing, and you fetch only, select star from is primarily to be avoided. So you fetch only the required fields, and opt-in is the basic thing. So what does that mean is, when you are showing a checkbox of things, you cannot show pre-checked items. So that is not permitted. You should only show which are being meaning the user has to explicitly state that yes, I want to be part of, I'm sharing my data kind of thing. And least privilege, database user should be limited to specific table based access. So this is the thing, and you can see in the example also, by default you are writing that sharing the data with marketing is given as false. Okay. So this is how data should be. You cannot keep the data. Data cannot be mentioned as true. It should be kept as false. Basically, the privacy thing is protected from the beginning. So similarly, there is what do you mean by opt-in and no opt-out? This is example is clear here. If you look at a real-world healthcare application, users actively have to opt-in to share the data. So here you can see that two check boxes are seen and nothing is clicked. So if I want to share, then I have to click it. So that is the kind of thing, and no data will be collected unless they click on opt-in. And the last point is, user can change their choices anytime. They should be able to revoke it or change it anytime. So technically speaking, how you have to implement in your database tables or something, this is how it looks like. If you are maintaining the email ID, sharing with marketing, by default it should be false. Unless otherwise a person has opted in, then only it becomes true. Okay, so by in your database tables you cannot keep everything as true, but it should be maintained explicitly as false. Why we are saying all of these things is, probably once the DPDP, the data protection, when the audit is happening, all these things should be properly maintained. Yeah, opt-in. Yeah, no, we gave an example. Timestamps also has to be added when it is and data. This is principal that's where the concern manager will show, meaning through a concern manager, that the principal will be able to see what privileges he has given to a given particular data fiduciary, at what instance has been done. That will be all recorded and shown. Yeah. Obviously, yes, this will have other columns also. This will have a timestamp when it was given and everything. Yeah. No. That's where the timestamp comes into picture. So when it was taken and recorded and then yeah. So that is the thing. Retrospective it cannot be. Yeah. It cannot be. Yeah, that's not case. So that's one thing. So these are the from the data principle. What are their rights? They can access this thing. Summary of data processed and identities of all the shared fiduciaries, and any issues are there that should be resolved in 90 days. Any correction the data principal can say. So for example, if they have any change in the address or something, they can update them. If there is any incomplete data, they can update it. So all those things with meaning the resolution time is 90 days. Within 90 days they should be doing it. And next is erasure. Eraser is basically what you say, suppose I don't want my data to be there in the database table or whatever. I don't want you to maintain my data, personal data. I'm asking you to delete it. Then also within 90 days that fiduciary has to delete it. And nomination, meaning this is a very interesting thing, where a person can nominate one or more individuals to exercise the rights on their behalf upon their whatever death or incapacity, and that will come on immediate effect, unlike the other things. Okay. No, not mandatory. They have the privilege to do. That's the thing, right? No. Nomination at any point of time is not mandatory. That is the thing. So. The data protection board, if there is anything, they will do the meaning I'll just come to that point, sir. There are auditors who will do that particular activity. Whether there is something, just hold on for a few minutes, I'll come to that point. So basically we can say that any issue which is raised by the data principal, the data fiduciary has 90 days to respond to that particular activity. Fiduciaries must respond to all the requests within that 90-day window, and 18 months are there for compliance, right? 18 now, right now it's not there, but of course there is a phased period for entities to adopt responsible data practices. And this rule 14/3, which is mandating that fiduciaries must respond to grievances within a period not exceeding 90 days. So this is from that particular act only. Now moving ahead, the DPDP Act also defines somebody as a significant data fiduciary, SDF. The important point is the Rule 13 outlines that this is actually this SDF is something which government designates. Okay, that is number one. Basically, I cannot say I am a SDF. So basically, it is to be government has to say that you are a significant data fiduciary, and it may say based on the volume of PI data that they are possessing or processing, etc., and sensitivity of such data, and the risk that data may pose to the sovereignty of the country or the electoral democracy part. So this is based on some of these parameters. The government can decide and say that any particular organization to be a significant data fiduciary. Okay, so there is a difference between a SDF and a data fiduciary. So what happens is, once you have been declared as a significant data fiduciary, then you should mandatorily have a resident DPO. DPO is nothing but a data protection officer. Okay, so they should appoint a data protection officer who is a resident in this country and should be the primary point of contact for any data protection mechanisms for that organization. And once that is done, Now the second point comes into the job of the DPO is to carry out the data protection impact assessments. He has to do a yearly impact assessment and he has to submit the report, and he also has to conduct independent audits. His job is to ensure that independent audits are conducted in the organization periodically. So this DPIA and audits are the main points that is required to be done by the DPO. So they have to ensure that it is being done. And today we know that most of us use a lot of algorithms, and transparency in algorithmic software is also critical to ensure that no risk to user rights are being done. Okay, so that is also to be taken care by the DPO. These all are very much mandatorily required once you are declared as a SDF, that is significant data fiduciary. Yeah. Significant data fiduciary is decided by government. They are by default they are data fiduciaries, but they are significant data fiduciaries if they are designated by the government. Yeah. SDF. You are a SDF. They have declared that you are SDF. Yes. Categories. A social media company with millions of users, something can be there. DF, yeah. No. Yeah. Data principle, it is you don't have to worry about whether you are data fiduciary or SDF. It is very much this thing only, but obligations are high. For responsibility is more. Yeah, for SDF actually. No, resident DPO is the main head of it. Obviously, he is responsible for any breaches or anything. So it is between the organization responsibility. And he will have to report to the board. He should be part of the responsible for that. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that is between the company. See, DPO is not put by a government. Government only says that you are a SDF. That's it. Now, once you have been declared as a SDF, it is your responsibility to appoint a DPO, and you can choose anyone, and you can fire anyone. So it depends on as a. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Correct. Yeah, that is possible. That is yeah. See, company can appoint a CEO, and the company say that company is making losses, CEO has to be fired. Means that is actually up to that company and the CEO. So. That's a point. Yeah. I think that maybe Vikas can take note of it. Yeah, that can be. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is the thing that Rule 13 outlines the additional obligations of SDF, including mandatory appointment of DP, data protection officer, and carrying out of data protection impact assessments and audits. Now coming to the penalties, and please note that these are all maximum up to. The condition is up to. If there is one, yes. That's what I showed, no? I showed. SDF shows that it will be classified based on the volume of the PI data that you are managing, sensitivity of it. No, that is not explicitly defined. Yeah, that government will takes care of that. No. That is not like that. So these are the penalties and enforcement. If there is a security failure, then you can be fined up to a maximum of 250 crore. Security failure can be like you have not encrypted the data properly. This is PI data you have not maintained separately. All those things comes into picture. And breach, if there is a breach, then it has to be notified. If to the DPB Data Protection Board, if it has not been done, then there is a fine of maximum 200 crore. And if the PI involves any minor or children's data, then also it can be a fine of 200 crore maximum. And if there is other violations, say for example, as a data principal, I asked my data to be erased, but they are not erased. In such cases also can be a fine of up to 50 crore. And again, one can be a mixed thing also. Sometimes security and breach or anything can also be possible. So what is the considerations for awarding these kind of things? Basically, it is the nature and the gravity of the breach, whether it was a repeated breach, and how many duration of the time which was happening, the breach was happening, volume of data that was exfiltrated or whatever it is, and steps that were taken by the organization or the data fiduciary to mitigate the harm. All of those things comes into picture while awarding this thing. Of course, that will be done by the protection board or the appellate based on the scenario. So reporting window for the data fiduciary of in case of any breach is 72 hours. So within 3 days they should report it. And so the main point here is that fiduciaries should note to the data protection board. They should immediately report within 72 hours if there is a personal data thing. We call it as a breach only when there is a personal data breach. Otherwise, it's a security incident. So dual notification that whosoever personal data has been leaked or breached, that particular individual or the data principal should be notified. Okay, those data principals should be notified that your data has been probably compromised. All those things should be told without any delay. And there should be a detailed scope which should be prepared. What is the nature of breach which had happened, how long it has been, what is the consequences, what was the mitigation measures which were implemented by the data fiduciary after that. All those things should be maintained and recorded. So this is something like that. So let us say that if a breach had happened, what was exposed? Probably a personal identifier, contact details, financial information, sensitive personal data. All of these things could have been leaked or could have been taken care. And the affected data principals, this whose data has been shared, those people should be notified. And the internal processors, maybe the data processors for that particular fiduciary, they will also be affected, because we don't know, the incident can be either from one of them or from the fiduciary himself. So that has to be looked at. And preventive steps, basically you need to see to strengthen the security, review the controls, monitor and detect them. And you need to find and assess and classify whether it is an incident or a breach. Incident is a security incident where there is no PIA information which was compromised. Okay, so that is basically a security incident. Then you have to follow the certain guidelines. Otherwise, it is a breach and it has to go into the data part. So the first step is, in case of a breach management, the first step is to detect and assess what has happened, and immediately you need to notify the authorities. Obviously, the data protection board, you need to tell them, and also you need to tell the data principals, DPs. You have to immediately communicate the affected data principals has to be communicated. And number 3, obviously you need to do the containment of that particular breach, close off systems and minimize the kind of loss kind of thing. And then retain and preserve the data, whatever that has happened. Number 4 for investigation. And second, so the 5th point, you take a investigation and document it. And number 6, you take remedial actions so that there is nothing is going out. And number 7, you review and improve your processes within your organization so that no breach happens in the future. So this is something which can happen. So in case if there is a failure of data protection, this is the up to, that is a number which is given there, and which can go up to these values are of non-compliance. And the thing is, while notifying the breach to the data principal, there are also again certain guidelines. It should be in a concise, clear and plain manner. This is exactly quoted from the rule 7.1, which says this. Of course, first thing is immediate notification is required to the affected data principals, and plain language, messages should be easy to understand. Action step, you must explain the impact and steps which are taken by your fiduciary, taken by the fiduciary for remedy. And help desk should be separately set up for assistance if there is any requirement. So this is one of the thing. From a technical viewpoint, how to look at the thing, how do you know that there is a kind of thing? Obviously you need to have a complete monitoring system. You need to look at automated anomalies which through your SIM, and you need to have a kill switch for quarantining the compromised databases, and automated user and regulatory alerts are required, and also to postmortem to find out the threat models and logic, everything. So this is very much required. And probably you need to also have a incident response war room where kind of a SOC kind of setup, which will keep on monitoring the kind of data that is being sent out from your organization. So let us say that in this example, your system is communicating to external IPs, log analytics, API gateways, web application user access, and there is suddenly you are seeing a surge in the amount of data, and especially PI data user addresses are going, then automatically your system should alert it. So basically what we are trying to say is your SIM or SOAR or whatever kind of solution should automatically be rewritten for this kind of triggering this kind of alerts. So that is important. The right hand side tells you the workflows, automated workflows with playbooks which has to be given, quarantine the database, revoke the API keys, and generate data protection board alert also can be done, and notify the affected data principals. So this is a playbook that should be automatically played out. So incident timeline, when anomaly is detected, investigation should start, and auto response should be initiated, containment should be done, and notification should be queued. And there should also be a set of the support or members who are response team should be created for managing that. And you can see the data flow monitor. Basically traffic flow and data flow monitor should also be there for looking at it, and the kind of things when there is a mass data export or any PI data which is crossing behind the thing, it should be looked at. And what is the impact estimate, how much, because all these things matter when how much of data has got exposed, and all those things also come into picture. So you need a complete system which can be part of your SOAR or SIM, which can get added to this particular thing. So this is the requirement that has to be set by the data fiduciary basically for his side. Okay, so any questions? Yeah.
Children is for children the fine is up to 200 crores, right?
Yeah,
children data, right?
Yeah.
Now let's say that my child is in a school, right? They take lots of photos. The photos has been sent on the Facebook.
Okay.
School doesn't have any partnership or an agreement with Facebook.
Okay.
School has posted the personal data on Facebook, so Facebook will do whatever they want because they did not ask for that information, so they are not liable.
Okay.
School can be called as a data fiduciary, then, right? They can ask for my consent, but that's a kind of a forceful consent, right? They will say, this one, boss, you have to sign and send this form back to school, right? So, I mean, this is like breach of data.
No, you have given the consent, whether knowingly or unknowingly.
Given the consent, but I'll like to ask Vikasji on that, what the law says on this one, because that's a forceful consent. Because I can't withdraw my child from school, they will send this one, if you want to be in school, send, give this consent.
For student, yeah.
But what we are trying to do here is to present to you a story which is our projection of those things, how it should be. I understand that then authority was asked, everyone was asked, somebody went to court said something, then government to implement accordingly. So that's a whole cycle around it, getting things done. But yes, don't get too because this is a system which will evolve. So somebody said that role-based access recording audit doesn't happen today. We are not saying that in the current system you have to implement all this. The system has to gradually improve.
That means for the different verticals, we have to have the different, laws, or you say this one because...
No. Law says this has to be done. Law is horizontal. Implementations are left on themselves. Law doesn't, that's where goes into detail. If the law was only for petroleum sector, you can then define details in that. But this law is a horizontal law which says that purpose limitation. What purpose limitation in college means differs from what it means in a school. It differs in what it means in a college. When somebody runs a domestic tuition, we cannot do a law for the country in this detail. So we have given broad structures. I would, because this is the first program, I said that let's do it ASAP so that we also learn. So one thing I've learned is that you have to say that let me complete, and then you should give 3 times a disclaimer that let me project a thing, and then at the end we will do this exercise. I am here for the day.
Yeah, so we have a panel discussion also.
No, not panel and not everything is very usual. I am saying that we will keep 15 minutes, 1 hour for discussion, but I would say that just keep on the pad writing all what you have and then try to visualize and map to what he is saying. Then we will come up with questions. Otherwise, we will not be able to complete the flow, and then a lot of things which we planned won't happen. So I can understand these questions keep arising. To be very honest, to some of them I also don't have answers, but I've seen the whole cycle. I feel that when some student came to me or somebody who's just started, he said, oh, how this will happen, how this will happen. I said 2 years before, were you concerned on these things? So he said no. So if you are concerned, then it will happen. So that's what shortly I could say for now. Yeah. I think you should complete the flow first, and then we'll come back to this, and we'll keep.
I asked the question when he said this one. Ask question.
Huh? Yeah, no. He must have said so because we are doing this program for the first time. This kind of presentation.
All the questions are welcome. What I mean to say, we are saying is all questions are welcome.
But this kind of content, first time I can assure you, nowhere in the world this happens.
Yeah.
Google is so excited, they wanted to replicate this all across with all the governments, because nobody has taken talking at database level. Everyone will come with a block level, say that this will happen from this block to this block. Nobody comes up to this database level. So I request that you just complete this.
Yeah.
We will keep we all are here, we'll keep half an hour for this.
Yeah.
We'll keep this detailed to
Definitely.
our best and knowledge, but let's not break the flow very often, otherwise we are losing
Yeah.
on the whole structure, I guess.
So I think now I am completed. So now we are going to on to the next module. So my request my colleague Anup Kumar to take the next part.